We gather today to discuss a conflict that dominates our headlines, a rivalry that threatens to pull the entire Middle East into a vortex of fire. We speak of Iran and Israel. When we see the images on our screens, of missiles streaking across the night sky, of defiant rhetoric from world leaders, of a region on a knife's edge, we assume we are watching a story as old as time itself. An ancient, immutable hatred between two peoples. But what if I told you that this story, as we know it, is not ancient? What if I told you that the narrative of eternal enmity is a myth? And what if I told you that to understand this war, you must first understand a forgotten peace? To grasp the real history of the Iran-Israel conflict, we must peel back the layers of propaganda, wipe away the dust of decades, and look at the world not as it is today, but as it was yesterday. Our story does not begin with a bomb, but with a secret handshake. In the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, the world was a different place. In the Middle East, the great fear for many was not Zionism or Shia Islam, but the twin threats of Soviet expansionism and the rising tide of pan-Arab nationalism led by figures like Egypt's Gamal Abdel Nasser. In this climate, Israel found itself isolated, an island in a hostile sea. From this isolation was born the Periphery Doctrine strategy to leapfrog the hostile Arab states and build alliances with the non-Arab powers on the region's edge. And its most important partner in this doctrine was the imperial state of Iran. Under the rule of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, Iran was a nation straining toward modernity. The Shah, a staunch ally of the West, saw Israel not as an enemy, but as a fellow modernizer, a partner in progress, and a bulwark against their common Arab rivals. And so, a quiet, pragmatic, and deeply secret alliance was born. This was not a friendship of ideals, but of interests. Israeli military advisors quietly trained the Shah's forces. The two nations' formidable intelligence agencies, Mossad and Savak, shared information on mutual threats. A joint pipeline was built to carry Iranian oil to Israel and then on to Europe. Israeli agricultural experts helped make the Iranian desert bloom. In the corridors of power in Tehran and Tel Aviv, there was a quiet understanding: we are in this together. This was the reality for nearly 3 decades. So what happened? How did this era of quiet cooperation devolve into the open hostility we see today? The answer is not a border dispute, a resource war, or an ancient ethnic grievance. The answer is a revolution. The year is 1979. The Pahlavi dynasty, which had seemed so permanent, crumbles under the weight of its own corruption and the unyielding will of a people galvanized by a new, powerful ideology. The Shah flees, and from exile returns the figure who would forever change the destiny of his nation and the geopolitics of the world, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. The Iranian Revolution was not just a change of government, it was a fundamental rewriting of reality. And in this new reality, the world was divided into the oppressed and the oppressors. The United States was branded the Great Satan, the ultimate source of global imperialism. And Israel, its closest ally in the region, its partner in the Periphery Doctrine, was instantly recast. It became the little Satan, an illegitimate, colonial outpost, a dagger aimed at the heart of the Muslim world. The transformation was immediate and absolute. All diplomatic and commercial ties were severed. The Israeli embassy in Tehran was ceremoniously handed over to the Palestine Liberation Organization. The very concept of Israel's right to exist was rejected. Anti-Zionism was no longer just a policy, it became a sacred pillar of the new Islamic Republic's identity. The war did not begin with a gunshot. It began with this idea. And so began the long, dark chapter of our story, the Shadow War. For more than 40 years, this was a conflict fought not on traditional battlefields, but in the back alleys of Beirut, in the clandestine computer labs of Natanz, and in the skies above Damascus. It was a war of assassinations and cyber attacks, of proxies and sabotage. Iran, unable and unwilling to confront Israel's conventional military might directly, perfected the art of proxy warfare. It forged what it calls the Axis of Resistance, a network of allied militias designed to encircle Israel and bleed it from 1,000 cuts. In Lebanon, they built Hezbollah into the most powerful non-state military force in the world. In Gaza, they armed and funded Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. From Syria and Iraq, they coordinated attacks. Each rocket fired, each tunnel dug, was a move in a grand, bloody chess match orchestrated from Tehran. Israel, in turn, fought back in the shadows. Its air force conducted hundreds of strikes inside Syria, aiming to degrade Iran's presence and intercept weapons shipments. Its intelligence services were accused of orchestrating the assassinations of Iran's top nuclear scientists and military commanders, a campaign of targeted killings designed to cripple its ambitions. Its cyber warriors unleashed the Stuxnet virus, a digital ghost that invaded and sabotaged the very heart of Iran's nuclear program. It was a war of unseen hands and unexplained explosions, where every action prompted an equal and opposite reaction, pulling the region deeper into a cycle of violence. For decades, this was the fragile, violent equilibrium. The two nations were mortal enemies, but they never touched. The war was fought by others, on the soil of others. There was an unwritten rule: you do not strike us directly, and we will not strike you directly. Then came April 2024. And the rules were incinerated. An Israeli airstrike flattened an Iranian consulate building in Damascus, killing several high-ranking Revolutionary Guard commanders. For Iran, this was an intolerable blow, a direct attack on what it considered sovereign territory. The line had been crossed. The most crucial, and often overlooked, aspect of the Iran-Israel story is that their conflict is not ancient. Before 1979, they were not enemies, they were quiet, effective, and deeply pragmatic allies. This partnership wasn't based on shared values or cultural affinity, but on a cold, hard calculation of mutual interest in a hostile region. The core driver of this alliance was the Periphery Doctrine, a strategy conceived by Israel's first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion. Surrounded by hostile Arab states determined to destroy it, Israel sought to leapfrog this ring of fire and build relationships with the non-Arab powers on the Middle East's periphery. The greatest prize in this strategy was the imperial state of Iran under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. For the Shah, the alliance was equally beneficial. He saw himself as the leader of a modernizing nation destined for global influence and was deeply wary of the pan-Arab nationalism being promoted by leaders like Egypt's Gamal Abdel Nasser, which he saw as a direct threat to Persian influence. He also shared a deep mistrust of Soviet ambitions in the region. In Israel, he found a fellow non-Arab state that was technologically advanced, militarily capable, and, most importantly, also an ally of the United States. Their cooperation was extensive and multifaceted. Economically, Iran became a primary supplier of oil to Israel through a secret joint pipeline. Militarily, Israeli advisors helped train the Shah's elite forces and provided advanced weaponry. Most critically, their formidable intelligence agencies, Mossad and Savak, engaged in deep collaboration, sharing vital information on Arab states and Soviet movements. This was a strategic partnership that, for nearly 3 decades, created a powerful and stable axis in the region, fundamentally shaping the balance of power during the Cold War. The world held its breath. And then, for the first time in history, Iran did what it had never done before. It launched a direct military assault on the State of Israel. Over 300 drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles soared across the night sky, launched not from Lebanon or Syria, but from Iran itself. The shadow war was over. The direct war had begun. Though Israel and its allies intercepted nearly every projectile, the psychological barrier was shattered. The decades-old taboo was broken. Israel responded with its own strikes inside Iran, targeting military sites. The war of whispers had become a roar. And that is where we stand today. At the precipice. The real history of the Iran-Israel war is a tragedy. It is the story of how a partnership of pragmatism was consumed by a revolution of ideology. It is a reminder that the most intractable conflicts are not fought over land or resources, but over ideas, over competing visions of justice, faith, and destiny. To understand this conflict is to understand that it is not ancient. It is modern. It is not simple. It is excruciatingly complex. It is the story of a secret handshake that became a clenched fist, of a quiet alliance that became a declaration of war. The long shadow has finally fallen, and the world holds its breath to see what the morning will bring.